Super League recently. I think there's still a little bit of a core of that experience around them. They've always been nomadic. They shrug off not having a stadium. That's a minor inconvenience for London. I'm not massively confident about my pick of London. I agree with Alan that Toulouse are on paper the best side in the league. I'm not sure whether Toulouse are going to have I'm not sure how it's going to work logistically for Toulouse at the moment. France is still obviously in a very difficult place. I'm not sure how the travelling's going to work. There was some speculation about whether they were going to be able to do, fulfil some of those fixtures or not, and I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. But I expect London to be competitive, and that might be enough.
Well, I've gone for Featherstone, and actually one of the reasons I went for Featherstone over Toulouse, because I do think both sides have really put a lot into improving their squads for this year, kind of almost knowing that it was going to be a head-to-head eventually, especially once League got bumped up to Super League. But I just think Fev won't have that inconvenience and issue over the travel stuff. One of the things for Toulouse I feel a bit sorry for them for, in a way, is it's going to be played on points percentage this year, and I know that could give them a leg up if they play fewer games but do really well. But if they don't play the part-time sides at home, then that's some of their potentially easier fixtures that they're not going to get to play. So I think that could come into the mix in that division. Now, it might not come into the mix by the time we get to the end and the battling out for who's actually going to win, because there's going to be a grand final, isn't there? So, maybe there it might work back in their favour. But I just think I've given Fev that nod basically. But I would love it to be Toulouse.
I got it completely wrong. It's not 18,000, it's 8,000.
Yeah,
that's that. But I'm sure I have read that they've got like some ability to expand it at some point or something. I don't know. But we'll see. Okay. Any other observations on the Championship? Any sides that you think might be a surprise? Anyone? That might contend that we're not talked about at all.
I think Newcastle might be a bit of a package. Yeah, coming in won't really be that known, and they'll be having a lot to prove. And I think they could come out. They could certainly start very well.
Again, it's not based on anything particular because I've only seen a couple of pre-season, but Swinton looked quite good against us. They're obviously perennially under fancied, but I thought they looked all right. And heavy woolen teams also kind of, didn't disgrace themselves in the first game for a year. So, yeah, but I do think, unfortunately, there'll be a bit of a gulf between the top teams and the rest, as we've seen in recent years, unfortunately.
Let's move down to League One. And the votes were spread out very evenly amongst the small starting field that we've got for League One. Jointly in third place for being picked to win the league is Rochdale and Workington with 10%. Jointly in second place is Barrow and Doncaster with 22%, and then the most, with just a few votes more than those two, was Keighley with 24%. Hunslet and West Wales also got votes. 4 votes for West Wales. I mean, I get Rangi Chase, but, Chase and Henson... let's just start with covering that off. And Tim, I'm going to come to you because you're our Wales expert and 2 our League One expert. Surely those 4 people have got a bit carried away. They've been down the Fox for a few too many pints.
I definitely think so. I can't see... Given the sheer age of both of them, can you really expect two Masters players to be playing all the games? I mean, I know it's a shortened season because having less teams now, but even so, do you really expect that they're going to play all that? And I don't think they've got much depth anyway. Take that as one thing. Number 2, they haven't played consistently together at all ever. They've not, neither of them have had a run of games in the last 2 or more years. Gavin Henson, it's a completely new sport, and he's already, been out in the press saying that he's finding an adjustment. I can't see that being good enough, but also then their pack is not brilliant, so they're going to be playing behind not even a top 8 pack in that division.
And
so they're going to really struggle.
A massive squad, which means they're going to struggle for consistency of selection. We've seen that at League One level, haven't we, over the years? Some of especially the non-Heartland sides. With the South Welsh team of whichever guise and form it's been in, we've seen lots of players. I mean, one time using 30, 40 players in a season is not uncommon for whichever that South Wales franchise in its numerous guises. So, yeah, I'm not surprised, and I think it is a problem in terms of getting players to travel out there, because even from Cardiff, it can be, on a bad run, it can be 2 hours. So it's a bit of a schlep out there, and so they're not going to be able to bring in reinforcements easily. So they are isolated in many senses. So, and it's also going to be an interesting one if they are playing games in lockdown, if the rules will be different for the Welsh sides because it's under the different administration. So that could also be a factor for them as well. But on the positive side, the press around the team with the signings they've made is really positive news for the club and for Rugby League in that area. And do you think, certainly we've got to expect that they're going to be winning more games than they've won in a season before, which would be winning 2 games?
You'd expect so. I mean, it's the right environment to have a rugby league side in there. So it's a working class area. You've got rugby players coming out your ears. You should be able to make a lower league side work at that level. So it'll be down to a lot of things. But I think partly because of the contraction of the league, there aren't going to be many easy games. There's going to be no, if you look back 5 years or so where you had Oxford, Gloucester, Hemel, you've stripped all of those out, which are the sides that they could win a couple against and get some momentum. So every side they're playing is going to be someone who's historically finished above them.
Yeah, fair shout. We've not gone outside of those teams that got in the big vote categories anyway, any of us. So Alan, we'll start with you and your choice.
Yeah, I went for Keighley as well. I think it's obviously it's tricky for League One teams. Obviously, most of them aren't. A couple of them have started pre-season, but a lot of them are still in the build-up phase. I don't think I think is it May the season kicks off. So it's going to be an interesting campaign. I went for an established name, but it was a bit of a toss-up between Keighley and Barrow for me. I think both of them have got good squads, and they've got experience to get up to the next level. So yeah, but I tossed the coin. I went for Keighley.
David, you looked past Keighley's, frankly, eyesore-worthy range of kits this year to pick them as well.
I love them. They are so garish. That's what attracted me to them. I thought, if they wear those kits, nobody else is going to be able to concentrate to play against them.
It's the cougar jumping out of the middle of the chest as well. That logo is so oversized that it is a distraction.
Yeah, can you imagine trying to tackle someone running full pelt at you with that cougar on the front? No, to be honest, it was tight for me between Keighley and Barrow. I think I like Barrow anyway. They're the team that I usually root for in this whatever division they're in. And I would have picked Barrow, but I just edged towards Keighley, not because of the kit, but I just think they've got a slightly better squad.
Yeah, I felt the same. I thought they'd recruited quite well. They have lost Wellington Alba, haven't they, for the season with a injury that he picked up in training, which takes away some of the splash name signings that they've made. But I still think it's probably enough. And also, in that division, there's so much travelling in League One. And I think Keighley are probably, maybe along with Hunslet, but who don't have as good a squad, kind of the best geographically placed to kind of be in the heart of that division, and it not be too much of too hard to get to everywhere, really. There's no.
And I think that's why. Yeah, I think that's why I picked Barrow, because I think they'll have that home advantage. In that, I think especially with fitness being probably lower in terms of sides, not having played for a year, I just think they're going to have that little bit more, especially at home, where sides have made it in quite a lot of cases 4-hour plus journey up to them.
Sarah, you went for Doncaster for your choice, so we've not talked much about the Dons yet. So what meant you go that way?
To be honest, I don't know a lot about the teams in League One this year. I think, not having last season, it makes it difficult to make a call, and therefore Doncaster are always my default.
I mean, they have got close ties, haven't they, with Hull FC as well, or have traditionally had in the last, say, 5 or so years. There's no dual registration this year, but I assume loans will still be a frequent thing between the two clubs.
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've got enough players to loan out.
Good stuff. Okay. Let's move into the Women's Super League then. So, of the 10 sides competing in the Women's Super League this year, 6 of them actually got votes as being predicted to be the winner. In third place, St Helens got 13% of the votes. I think amongst us we made up a good handsome chunk of that. Second place, Castleford with 18% of the votes. Of course, Cass have been outstanding in getting to finals, but not quite winning them in the recent past in the women's game. Over 50% of the vote, 53% of the vote went for Leeds Rhinos to retain the title that they won in 2019, because of course in 2020 the whole season was missed for the amateurs ladies sides that represent the Super League there. Huddersfield, Warrington and Wigan also got some votes, I'm guessing from Huddersfield, Warrington and Wigan fans. But Leeds are the most popular choice, and Sarah, you went with Leeds.
Yeah, just because they're the team that, that they are up there with the leading women's team, I think, year in, year out. So I had no real reason not to pick them. Yeah,
been there and done it kind of feeling there. Alan, did you share that feeling for Leeds?
Yeah, as you say, they've not only got to finals, but they've shown that killer instinct to win them. So for me, Leeds were the obvious choice.
David, you went with.
Surprisingly, I went with St Helens.
And I assume the thinking behind that was no more than they were available to pick.
Exactly the same as Noble. Although what I will say is, I think the Saints women's team have improved over the last 2 years and have, I think, started to become a lot more competitive. And they've got a core of players there in people like Jodie Cunningham and Chantal Crowell that I think offers them a better level of experience than we've had previously. And I think they ought to be competing for the top prize. So it's only a question of whether they can finally get it over the line.
Yeah, well, I went with St Helens as well, because I thought heading into last season they'd accumulated the best squad. Certainly the best match day 17 of the sides. Maybe Leeds and Cass possibly have a bit more depth, but I thought they'd accumulated the best squad, and I can't move from that because not much has moved. I know the Wigan ladies are excited about their side this year, but I just don't think we are as competitive as we had been a couple of years ago.
And with Saints, they've got 2 potential England centres that have come in. So they've got Amy Hardcastle and Carrie Roberts have come in. I mean, and they've also had they had a couple of new players that they got from Wigan for last season. So they've strengthened. I think the England connection at Saints is a big draw for players. So I think that's a big thing. And I think you've also got